Hook plus intro. Have you ever noticed that some people with enormous wealth still walk through life with a heavy heart, while others, with very little, seem to move with effortless peace? What makes the difference? It's not the numbers in your bank account, it's how you relate to them, how you manage them with mindfulness, ethics, and wisdom. Picture this: the soft morning sunlight filtering through the trees, a gentle stream trickling nearby. There, standing in quiet contemplation, is a monk holding a single coin in his hand. At first glance, it seems ordinary, almost insignificant. But if we pause for a moment, we realize that coin holds a universe of lessons about responsibility, restraint, and the art of letting go. It's a small symbol, yet it carries a profound truth. Money, in itself, is neutral. It becomes either a blessing or a burden depending on our approach. This is where the wisdom of managing wealth according to moral principles comes in, a practice that transcends religion, culture, or status. The first lesson is simplicity, understanding that contentment is not about endless accumulation, but knowing what is enough. Think about it: have you ever bought something and, for a fleeting moment, felt satisfaction, only to crave more a week later? This cycle of craving keeps the mind restless, even if the wallet is full. The second lesson is generosity. Giving does not mean losing. It means creating a flow where wealth circulates, nourishing not only others, but also the heart of the giver. Imagine a community where resources are shared thoughtfully, where even small contributions spark joy. That joy, that inner warmth, is the real wealth. Third is discernment. Mindless spending or chasing status symbols leads to anxiety. Discernment asks us to pause and reflect. Does this choice serve my well-being, my values, or am I just chasing a fleeting illusion? It's like tending a garden. You carefully plant, nurture, and weed out what doesn't belong, rather than scattering seeds haphazardly. And then comes patience. Wealth, like life, unfolds over time. The desire for instant gratification, for immediate gain, often blinds us to long-term growth, to lessons that can only be learned through steady, mindful effort. The monk by the stream reminds us of this quietly. The coin is not for rushing or hoarding, it is for understanding, appreciating, and using wisely. Finally, reflection and gratitude tie all these lessons together. Pause daily, consider your resources, and ask, how can I turn what I have into a blessing? How can I align my financial choices with the ethics and wisdom that nourish my soul? Money managed this way doesn't weigh on your heart. It becomes a tool for freedom, for compassion, for peace. As we explore these 10 aspects of mindful wealth, remember this: the true measure of richness is not in accumulation, but in balance, awareness, and ethical use. A single coin, held with intention and understanding, can teach more than a treasure chest carried with anxiety. So, let us embark together on this journey and discover how money, when guided by wisdom, can transform into a source of blessings rather than burdens. Understanding the true value of wealth. Imagine a young merchant, successful in every worldly sense. He has wealth, influence, even a house that overlooks the bustling city streets. Yet, one day, he approaches a quiet monk by a riverside and asks, almost with a tremor in his voice, "I have everything, yet I am never at peace. Why am I always anxious?" This question is not new. It echoes across centuries and cultures. The merchant's dilemma reflects a universal truth: money alone cannot buy inner peace. The monk listens carefully, letting the question settle like a stone dropped in still water. Then, with a gentle smile, he begins to share an ancient yet timeless wisdom. Wealth is not meant to feed endless ambition. It is meant to serve life in a way that is wholesome, ethical, and meaningful. Pause for a moment and reflect on that. How often do we chase more, not because we need it, but because society tells us that more is better? A bigger house, a newer car, a fancier title. And yet, no matter how much we acquire, the mind seems never satisfied. This is exactly what the merchant experienced. He had measured success in numbers, yet he had overlooked the real value of what he possessed. The Buddha teaches that true wealth is measured not by accumulation, but by purpose and awareness. When you understand the real value of your resources, money stops controlling you. It becomes a tool, not a master. Think about it. If you have the power to choose how you use your assets, whether to support your family, contribute to your community, or cultivate your own growth, then every dollar gains a deeper meaning. Every coin becomes a potential seed for generosity, wisdom, and compassion. Here's a practical example. Imagine you receive a bonus at work. The instinct might be to spend it immediately, perhaps on a fleeting pleasure that brings temporary satisfaction. But what if, instead, you pause to ask yourself, how can this money support a greater purpose? Could it help someone in need, fund a small project that benefits your community, or even allow you a quiet retreat to reflect and learn? That moment of mindful choice transforms money from a source of anxiety into a source of blessing. It's also worth noting that this understanding is not about deprivation or guilt. On the contrary, it encourages balance, awareness, and intentionality. The merchant learns that his wealth is neutral. It's his perspective and use that determine whether it is a burden or a blessing. The simple act of understanding value, what truly matters in life, can free him from the restless cycle of worry and desire. So, ask yourself, do you truly know the value of what you own? Is your wealth guiding you, or are you being guided by it? When we understand that money is a servant, not a master, we open the door to peace, clarity, and a life aligned with ethics and wisdom. That young merchant's journey begins with this insight, and it can begin for any of us, here and now. Avoiding harm in business. Imagine a small farmer, tending his flock of chickens with care. Business is slow, and he wants to sell some of them to make ends meet. But a question troubles him deeply. Can I profit from the lives of these animals? Would it be right? This inner conflict is not merely about commerce, it's about conscience, ethics, and the ripple effects of our actions. This is where the timeless wisdom of respecting life comes in. In Buddhist thought, ethical management of wealth begins with the recognition that all living beings deserve care and compassion. Money earned through harm, whether through the suffering of animals, the exploitation of people, or the destruction of nature, carries an invisible weight. It may appear profitable on the outside, but on the inside, it creates anxiety, guilt, and disturbance. Consider the farmer. If he chooses to profit by selling his chickens for slaughter, he may gain wealth, but at what cost? Each transaction, each decision, becomes a thread in a larger tapestry of suffering. Conversely, if he seeks alternatives, perhaps selling eggs, offering plant-based products, or finding ways to provide for his community without causing harm, he aligns his livelihood with ethics. Suddenly, business is not just a means to survive or accumulate wealth, it becomes a practice of mindfulness, compassion, and integrity. Ask yourself, how often do we engage in business or work that indirectly causes harm, without even realizing it? From products that exploit workers to industries that pollute, many of our choices create suffering we might prefer to ignore. The principle here is simple yet profound. Avoid creating profit through pain. When we embrace this ethic, wealth becomes a source of blessing, not burden. Here's a practical perspective. You might not run a farm, but every financial decision has ethical consequences. Choosing companies that treat workers fairly, supporting sustainable practices, or even considering the environmental impact of your purchases, are all ways to honor life while managing your resources wisely. Ethical business is not just a moral choice, it's a path to peace of mind. When your earnings align with compassion, you sleep better, act more freely, and your wealth serves your well-being instead of ruling it. This lesson extends beyond business into daily life. Every action that respects life, big or small, cultivates an inner wealth that no money can buy. Think of it as a kind of moral capital, invested through respect, kindness, and conscious choices. The farmer may never become a millionaire, but the richness he cultivates within, the serenity, the harmony, the alignment with his values, is far more lasting and meaningful. So, the next time you face a choice in your work, career, or business, pause and ask, will this decision cause harm, or will it honor life? The path of mindful wealth begins here. By avoiding profit built on suffering, we transform our resources into blessings, cultivating peace, integrity, and genuine prosperity, not just for ourselves, but for the world around us. Avoiding theft, upholding integrity. Imagine a manager at a thriving company, surrounded by numbers, budgets, and opportunities. One day, a thought crosses his mind: no one will notice if I take a little money. After all, the company has plenty. It's a fleeting temptation, almost invisible, but it carries a weight far heavier than the amount in question. This is where timeless wisdom comes in. In Buddhist teaching, theft is not just a legal violation, it is an erosion of the soul. Taking what is not yours creates an inner tension, a subtle but persistent heaviness that gnaws at peace of mind. It doesn't matter how small the sum, the act of dishonesty binds you in a web of anxiety and self-deception. Even when no one else knows, your own conscience will speak. Let's pause and reflect. How often do we justify shortcuts, tiny dishonesties, or bending rules in our daily lives, thinking no one is watching? It could be misreporting hours at work, exaggerating achievements, or even taking resources that aren't ours. Every time we compromise integrity for convenience or gain, we unknowingly chain ourselves to stress, fear, and inner unease. Now consider the opposite, choosing honesty, even when it's inconvenient or seems to cost you something. That choice might not bring instant rewards, but it cultivates the most valuable form of wealth: trust, respect, and self-respect. These are assets no one can take away, and they enrich every interaction, every relationship, and every decision you make. Integrity is like a seed planted in your heart. It grows silently, producing fruits of clarity, confidence, and inner peace. Here's a real-world example. Think about companies renowned for ethical practices. They may not always have the fastest short-term profits, but over time, their reputation, employee loyalty, and customer trust create stability and prosperity far beyond immediate financial gain. The lesson is clear: honesty and transparency are foundations for long-term wealth, not just in dollars, but in life satisfaction and emotional freedom. It's also worth asking yourself, how do you feel when you act dishonestly, even in minor ways? That unease, that tightening in your chest or mind, is a signal. Money or advantage gained at the cost of integrity is never truly yours. It carries an invisible burden. By contrast, choosing the path of honesty releases you. You gain freedom from fear, guilt, and the constant need to cover up mistakes. So, the next time temptation arises, whether it's a small shortcut, a misused resource, or a minor theft, pause. Ask yourself, will this action harm my soul or enrich it? The Buddha's teaching reminds us that the wealth of integrity outweighs all material riches. Keeping honesty at the center of your financial and personal life transforms your resources from potential stress into genuine blessings. And it makes your journey through life lighter, freer, and infinitely more fulfilling. Avoiding deception, living transparently. Imagine a merchant making a deal that seems too good to be true. Eager for profit, he hastily shakes hands with a new partner. But soon, he discovers he has been deceived. Goods are missing, promises broken, and the profit he hoped for vanishes like mist in the morning sun. Frustration and regret fill his heart. This moment is not just about a failed transaction. It is a lesson about the long-term cost of dishonesty and deception. The Buddha teaches that wealth gained through deceit or manipulation is never truly rewarding. Profits built on lies may bring short-term gain, but they carry hidden suffering, stress, fear, and the eventual breakdown of trust. Even if no one knows of the deception at first, the mind remembers. That inner disturbance, subtle but persistent, becomes a burden heavier than any monetary loss. Pause and think about your own life. How often do small deceptions slip into our work or business? Perhaps exaggerating a claim, withholding the full truth, or bending facts to gain an advantage. Each act seems minor, but cumulatively, it erodes trust and disturbs inner peace. What begins as a shortcut for profit can turn into a path to anxiety, guilt, and isolation. Transparency, by contrast, is a practice of integrity that pays dividends far beyond money. Choosing honesty and clarity in every deal creates trust, nurtures relationships, and builds a reputation that no one can take away. Imagine a community where merchants honor their word, where agreements are fulfilled faithfully, and where actions reflect principles as well as profits. In such an environment, wealth flows naturally, and both the giver and receiver are enriched. Here's a practical example: a business that openly shares product information, admits mistakes, and maintains fair pricing may not experience the fastest short-term growth, but over time, it gains loyal customers, reliable partners, and a strong, resilient reputation. That loyalty and trust translate into long-term stability and inner peace, demonstrating that ethical transparency is a form of wealth in itself. Ask yourself, are your financial and business choices aligned with truth, or are shortcuts tempting you? Every decision to live and act transparently strengthens your mind, reduces hidden stress, and transforms ordinary profits into blessings that benefit both you and others. Wealth managed with honesty doesn't just fill a wallet, it cultivates freedom, respect, and trust, resources that cannot be stolen or lost. The lesson is clear: shortcuts, fraud, and deception may promise instant gain, but they rarely deliver lasting satisfaction. Conversely, transparency in your dealings, small or large, is a foundation for genuine prosperity. It allows your wealth to become a tool for positive impact, creating ripples of goodwill that return to you in ways money alone cannot. By living transparently, we not only protect our material resources, but also nurture the deeper wealth of the mind and heart. So, the next time a choice arises in your business or personal transactions, pause and reflect: will this action create trust or sow doubt? Will it generate blessings or hidden suffering? The path of transparent living transforms every coin, every contract, and every interaction into a source of peace, integrity, and long-lasting abundance. Giving to enrich the soul. Picture a wealthy individual, surrounded by abundance, yet searching for a deeper sense of fulfillment. One day, he encounters someone in need, a struggling family, a community lacking resources, a neighbor facing hardship. Instead of turning away, he decides to share a portion of his wealth. The act is simple, yet its impact is profound, far beyond the material exchange. This is where the true wisdom of giving comes in. In Buddhist teaching, wealth achieves its highest purpose when it is used to benefit others in an ethical and compassionate way. Money kept solely for oneself may fill a bank account, but it cannot nourish the soul. Conversely, wealth shared with awareness and generosity transforms into blessings, creating a ripple of goodness that extends beyond the giver and receiver. Think about it for a moment. How often do we hold tightly to what we have, afraid that sharing might leave us with less? Yet, paradoxically, when we give mindfully, we often find our sense of abundance expanding rather than shrinking. The joy, gratitude, and connection that arise from acts of giving are forms of wealth money alone cannot buy. These are treasures that stay with us, enriching our inner lives and fostering a sense of purpose and harmony. Consider a practical example. A business owner donates a portion of profits to fund local education, support community healthcare, or help families in need. The money itself is temporary, but the impact is enduring. Communities flourish, relationships deepen, and the giver experiences a profound sense of meaning. This is spiritual wealth, an inner richness that sustains even when material fortunes fluctuate. Here's a reflective question: have you ever given not just out of obligation, but with full attention, compassion, and joy? That intentional generosity transforms giving into a practice of mindfulness. It becomes a way to cultivate patience, gratitude, and empathy, qualities that enhance both your personal life and the lives of those around you. Another perspective is that generosity also trains the mind to release attachment. When we give without expecting anything in return, we learn that our sense of security and self-worth does not come from possessions alone. We realize that the true measure of wealth lies in the quality of our heart, in the ability to act with kindness, and in the capacity to bring relief and happiness to others. So, the next time you have the opportunity to share, whether it's money, time, skills, or care, pause and reflect. Am I giving in a way that honors both ethics and compassion? Wealth, when shared wisely, becomes more than currency. It becomes a source of blessing, a tool for inner growth, and a pathway to lasting contentment. In the story of the wealthy man who gives, we see a simple yet profound truth. Giving is not losing. It is a way to enrich the spirit, cultivate virtue, and transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. Generosity is not just an action, it is a practice, a way of life that multiplies not just resources, but the very capacity of the heart to experience joy, connection, and peace. Managing wealth with wisdom. Imagine a young investor, ambitious and energetic, eager to grow his fortune. Yet despite opportunities and occasional windfalls, he constantly struggles, spending impulsively, saving little, and investing without a clear plan. The result? Anxiety, missed opportunities, and a nagging sense that wealth is slipping through his fingers. This story is not uncommon. Many of us face the same challenge in different forms. The Buddha's teaching offers a timeless guide. Wisdom is the foundation of managing wealth. Money alone is neutral, but how we use it determines whether it becomes a blessing or a burden. Understanding value, exercising discernment, and making informed choices are what transform resources into true support for life. Wealth without wisdom is like a river without banks, directionless, chaotic, and easy to lose. Pause for a moment and reflect on your own habits. Do you spend impulsively, chase fleeting pleasures, or invest in ventures without understanding the risks? The absence of a mindful approach often leads to stress, missed growth, and even regret. Wisdom in wealth management is not about hoarding, it's about knowing enough, using resources skillfully, and investing in ways that create sustainable benefit for yourself and others. Here's a practical example. Consider someone who carefully budgets, saving a portion of income, while also investing thoughtfully in ethical ventures. Each decision is guided by understanding, not impulse. Over time, these choices compound, creating stability and opportunity, while also aligning with values. The same principle applies to everyday life. Knowing when to spend, when to save, and how to give ensures that money serves life rather than enslaves it. Think also about discernment in opportunities. Not every investment, job, or business venture is worth pursuing. Wisdom teaches us to assess risks, potential impact, and alignment with long-term goals. By choosing carefully, we protect not only our finances, but also our peace of mind. In other words, a single wise decision can save us from years of anxiety and unnecessary loss. Another dimension of managing wealth with wisdom is recognizing the difference between needs and wants. True financial intelligence starts with knowing enough. How much is sufficient to live comfortably and ethically? How can resources be deployed to generate meaningful impact for ourselves and our communities? When we answer these questions consciously, wealth ceases to be a source of stress and becomes a tool for freedom, security, and positive influence. Finally, wisdom encourages patience. Growth, whether of money, knowledge, or character, takes time. Impulsive decisions may promise immediate gain, but often carry hidden costs. A mindful, informed, and measured approach, by contrast, allows wealth to grow steadily while cultivating inner calm and confidence. So, ask yourself, are your financial choices guided by impulse or insight? Are you using resources as tools for life, or are you letting them control you? By applying wisdom in spending, saving, and investing, you honor both the material and spiritual dimensions of life. The young investor, once lost in impulsive habits, discovers that wealth managed with intelligence, foresight, and ethics becomes not just a source of comfort, but a foundation for lasting peace, stability, and fulfillment. Avoiding greed, living simply. Imagine a merchant, wealthy beyond measure, his vaults overflowing with gold and treasures. Yet, despite all this abundance, he feels a persistent emptiness, a gnawing sense of lack. Every coin he acquires seems to spark more desire rather than satisfaction. This is the paradox of greed. No matter how much we accumulate, the mind remains restless, always reaching for more. The Buddha teaches that greed is a source of anxiety and suffering. True wealth is not measured by what you hoard, but by how wisely you manage and appreciate what you have. The merchant's story illustrates a universal truth: holding tightly to possessions, chasing endless accumulation, or comparing oneself to others keeps the heart in tension, preventing the peace that comes from contentment and simplicity. Pause for a moment and reflect. How often do we chase more, not because we truly need it, but because we fear missing out or crave status? A bigger house, a fancier car, a higher income, these may appear as measures of success, but without mindfulness, they feed a cycle of insatiable desire. Each new acquisition briefly fills the gap, but soon the void returns, whispering, "More, more, you need more." The antidote is simplicity. Living within your means, appreciating what you already have, and making mindful choices allows resources to serve your life rather than dominate it. Consider a practical example. A family that focuses on essentials, shares quality time together, and prioritizes meaningful experiences over luxury finds richness not in possessions, but in connection, peace, and contentment. Their wealth is functional, supportive, and free of the burden of constant craving. Another perspective is ethical restraint. Observing moral guidelines, honesty, fairness, and care for others ensures that wealth does not become a source of harm or inner turmoil. A simple lifestyle aligned with ethics reduces stress, fosters clarity, and transforms possessions from chains into tools that support well-being. When greed subsides, even modest resources can bring genuine comfort and joy. Ask yourself, are your decisions driven by need or by fear and desire? Are you using resources to enhance life, or are you chasing illusions of sufficiency? The merchant, for all his gold, experiences emptiness because he confuses accumulation with security. The practice of simplicity, by contrast, teaches us to cultivate gratitude, mindfulness, and a clear sense of what is enough. The lesson is profound yet simple: less can be more. By resisting greed and embracing simplicity, wealth ceases to create anxiety and instead becomes a source of contentment. Possessions no longer control the mind, they support life. True security arises not from hoarding, but from knowing how to use resources wisely, ethically, and with awareness. So, the next time you feel the pull of desire for more, pause and reflect: do I truly need this? Or am I feeding fear and greed? Living simply, ethically, and mindfully transforms wealth into a source of peace, satisfaction, and lasting joy. The merchant, once restless and unsatisfied, discovers that the greatest treasure is not gold, but the serenity and clarity of a heart free from craving. Facing failure with a clear mind. Imagine a business owner who has worked tirelessly, invested wisely, or so he thought, and suddenly faces a major loss. Perhaps a deal falls through, a market shifts, or an unexpected error drains resources. The immediate reaction is frustration, anxiety, maybe even a sense of personal failure. Yet, beneath the surface, there is an opportunity, a lesson that transcends profit and loss. The Buddha teaches that material wealth comes and goes, but ethical principles, what we call the precepts, keep the mind clear and steady. A financial setback does not diminish the value of living rightly. On the contrary, it is a moment to reflect, to learn, and to ensure that future actions align with integrity, compassion, and wisdom. Loss is not merely a subtraction from your bank account. It can be a teacher that prevents far greater mistakes if approached mindfully. Pause and reflect. How often do we equate financial failure with personal inadequacy? This reaction is common, but it conflates external circumstances with inner worth. The Buddha reminds us that wealth is temporary, impermanent, and unpredictable. What matters is how we respond. Do we cling, resent, or act impulsively to recover at any cost? Or do we maintain clarity, acknowledge the loss, and make conscious decisions that honor ethical living? Consider a practical example. A young entrepreneur loses a significant investment due to a misjudgment. Instead of panicking and taking shortcuts or unethical measures to recoup the loss, she reflects on the decisions, learns from errors, and continues her work with mindfulness and care. Over time, not only does she rebuild her financial stability, but she also gains resilience, trustworthiness, and inner peace, qualities far more enduring than money. Facing failure with a clear mind also nurtures humility. It reminds us that no matter how skilled or knowledgeable we are, uncertainty is inherent in life and business. Accepting this impermanence allows us to act without greed, fear, or desperation. Wealth may fluctuate, but the commitment to ethical action ensures the mind remains unclouded, the conscience clear, and the heart at ease. Ask yourself, when setbacks happen in your life, do you react out of fear and attachment, or do you pause, reflect, and act with integrity? Each loss carries a lesson if approached consciously. It can illuminate mistakes, strengthen judgment, and deepen understanding, turning adversity into a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. Ultimately, the lesson is profound yet simple. Wealth is impermanent, but a clear mind anchored in ethics is a constant. The Buddha encourages us to see failure not as punishment, but as guidance, a signal to act wisely, maintain honesty, and continue cultivating virtue. By doing so, material losses become minor, and life's deeper riches, peace, clarity, and moral strength remain intact. So, when financial setbacks or mistakes occur, remember this: the value of your wealth is temporary, but the light of a clear, ethical mind endures. Facing failure with wisdom transforms every loss into insight, every misstep into learning, and every challenge into an opportunity to cultivate lasting inner wealth. Sustainable accumulation, patience, and sincerity. Picture someone eager to amass wealth quickly, tempted by shortcuts, tricks, or schemes that promise fast money. At first glance, it seems like an easy path: just bend the rules, exploit loopholes, or manipulate circumstances. Yet, experience and timeless wisdom show that these shortcuts rarely lead to lasting gain. Instead, they bring stress, regret, and vulnerability, because wealth built on deception is fragile and fleeting. The Buddha teaches that sustainable accumulation, true prosperity, comes from patience, sincerity, and ethical action. Wealth earned gradually, through honest effort and mindful choices, may grow more slowly, but it is enduring. It builds not only material stability, but also inner security, trust, and peace of mind. Money obtained dishonestly may vanish overnight, but wealth nurtured with integrity stands firm, like a tree with deep roots that can weather storms. Let's reflect. How often are we tempted by quick wins in life, work, or business? A bonus, a high-risk investment, or a tempting shortcut may promise fast gain, but at what cost? The pressure to maintain the deception, the risk of loss, or the erosion of relationships often outweighs the temporary reward. By contrast, patience and sincerity create a foundation that supports both external and internal prosperity. Consider a practical example. An entrepreneur chooses to grow a small business ethically. She invests in quality, treats employees fairly, and serves customers honestly. Growth is steady but reliable. Over time, her reputation strengthens, partnerships deepen, and her enterprise becomes resilient. The wealth she accumulates is real, secure, and respected. This is sustainable prosperity, an accumulation that survives challenges and provides both material comfort and peace of mind. Sincerity also nurtures relationships and community. Wealth is not just numbers in an account, it is a tool for supporting life, creating trust, and contributing positively. By acting honestly and with patience, we generate goodwill that amplifies our efforts and opens doors that shortcuts cannot. The Buddha reminds us that life is impermanent. Only ethical and sincere actions leave a lasting mark. Ask yourself, when you make financial or life choices, are you chasing speed and gain, or are you investing in foundations that endure? Are your actions aligned with honesty, diligence, and awareness? The lesson is clear: shortcuts may bring momentary excitement, but sustainable wealth requires time, effort, and moral clarity. Patience is not inaction, it is deliberate, mindful cultivation. Sincerity ensures that every step builds something real, reliable, and valuable beyond money alone. Ultimately, sustainable accumulation transforms how we relate to wealth. It shifts the focus from instant gratification to long-term stability, from anxiety over loss to confidence in ethical choices. By practicing patience and sincerity, we not only secure resources for ourselves, but also cultivate inner wealth, resilience, integrity, and peace of mind. The person who once sought fast riches learns that real prosperity is not about speed, it is about depth, responsibility, and enduring value. So, the next time the temptation for a shortcut arises, pause and reflect: will this action build lasting wealth or temporary gain? Choose patience, act with sincerity, and allow your resources to grow steadily. In doing so, your material and spiritual wealth will flourish together, creating a life of true abundance and security. Combining wealth and true happiness. Imagine a scene under the gentle shade of a large tree. A wealthy person and someone with very little sit together, sharing a quiet moment. They smile, not because of money, possessions, or status, but because of a deep sense of ease and presence. This image captures the profound teaching of the Buddha: wealth alone does not create happiness, but wealth guided by ethics and wisdom can support a life of genuine contentment. Throughout the journey of managing assets according to the precepts, we learn that money is not the ultimate goal. True prosperity is a blend of material security, ethical living, and inner peace. A person who has mastered generosity, integrity, simplicity, patience, and mindfulness discovers that wealth is no longer a source of anxiety or greed. Instead, it becomes a tool to enrich life, strengthen relationships, and cultivate lasting joy. Pause for reflection. How often do we equate our bank balance with our happiness? Many chase bigger salaries, more possessions, or higher status, hoping to fill an inner void. Yet, no matter how much we accumulate, satisfaction often remains elusive. The Buddha reminds us that true happiness comes from a heart that is at ease, a mind that is clear, and actions that align with ethical and compassionate principles. Wealth can facilitate this, but it is never the source itself. Consider a practical example. A person earns a comfortable income and uses it thoughtfully, saving responsibly, giving generously, investing ethically, and living simply. By doing so, they create stability and freedom, reducing stress and building trust in relationships. Over time, they realize that the sense of security and fulfillment does not come from owning more, but from living wisely and harmoniously. The joy of shared moments, meaningful work, and ethical choices far outweighs temporary pleasure from luxury or status. Another perspective is the power of presence and gratitude. Sitting under the tree with someone from a different walk of life, both can experience the same smile, the same sense of peace. The difference lies not in the number of possessions, but in the quality of awareness and the alignment of action with values. True wealth, spiritual, emotional, and material, flows when life is lived with mindfulness and ethical clarity. Ask yourself, when you feel happiness or contentment, is it tied to things that can vanish overnight, or to qualities that endure regardless of circumstance? The final lesson of managing wealth according to the Buddha's guidance is simple yet transformative. Use resources ethically, cultivate generosity, live mindfully, and happiness will naturally follow. Wealth then becomes more than numbers, it becomes freedom, peace, and the ability to live fully. Ultimately, the story under the tree illustrates that the richest life is one where material resources and inner peace coexist. The wealthy and the modest alike can share a smile, experience joy, and feel connection. Wealth, when guided by wisdom, does not just add comfort to life, it enhances the capacity to experience happiness, deepen relationships, and act with compassion. As the Buddha teaches, true happiness comes from a calm, clear heart, not from the digits in a bank account. So, as you reflect on your own journey with money and life, remember this: let wealth be a servant to your values, not a master of your mind. When ethical guidance and mindfulness accompany your resources, you create not just financial security, but enduring happiness that no loss or challenge can take away. Closing. As we come to the end of this journey exploring the management of wealth according to ethical principles, pause for a moment and reflect. What does it truly mean to be rich? Is it the number in a bank account, the size of a home, or the luxury of possessions? Or is it something subtler, yet infinitely more profound, the richness of a heart at ease, the clarity of a mind free from fear, greed, and anxiety? When you manage your resources with integrity, avoiding harm, dishonesty, and exploitation, wealth transforms from a source of stress into a source of blessing. The Buddha's teachings remind us that money and possessions, when guided by wisdom and ethics, can support life rather than dominate it. They can create security, freedom, and the capacity to act with generosity, compassion, and mindfulness. In other words, material wealth and spiritual wealth are not separate. They grow together when aligned with ethical living. Consider this: how often do we chase more wealth, thinking it will bring happiness, only to find ourselves restless or anxious? Many of us have felt that unease, even in moments of apparent abundance. The missing piece is not the lack of resources, but the lack of awareness and ethical grounding. When money is earned and used without causing harm, when we avoid killing, stealing, or deceit, it stops being a source of tension. Instead, it becomes a tool for freedom, a means to cultivate joy, and a foundation for meaningful living. Reflect, too, on the simple acts that can make wealth a blessing: generosity to those in need, honesty in business, and mindful stewardship of what we have. Each choice, no matter how small, reinforces a life of integrity and peace. Over time, this approach creates resilience against setbacks, diminishes fear of loss, and fosters a deeper satisfaction than money alone could ever provide. Ethical management of wealth is not about limiting life. It is about enriching it, ensuring that both heart and mind flourish. Ask yourself, if your possessions disappeared tomorrow, would you still feel secure, peaceful, and content? This is the power of guiding wealth with wisdom. The true measure of richness is not in what you hold, but in how you hold it, how you use it, and how it shapes your character. When we integrate ethics, mindfulness, and intelligence into financial decisions, life becomes lighter, freer, and more joyful. In the end, the Buddha's guidance is clear and timeless: let wisdom and ethics lead the way for your money. Avoid harming life, remain honest, and act with integrity. By doing so, wealth ceases to be a burden and becomes a blessing, both for you and for the world around you. Material resources then serve their highest purpose: to support life, cultivate goodness, and bring inner peace. So, as you move forward, remember this: true richness is not just in what you possess, but in how you manage it, how you give, and how you live with it. Let your wealth be a reflection of your values, your integrity, and your compassion. When ethics and intelligence guide your resources, your life will not only be materially comfortable, but spiritually abundant. Money can then become a vehicle for joy, freedom, and lasting peace, a blessing for yourself and for everyone around you. Manage your wealth wisely. Live ethically. Let every choice with money be a step toward freedom, happiness, and the gentle ease of a heart at peace.